All right, guys, you ready?
Yeah.
Ready to go.
Greetings, acolytes. My name is Kennedy Phillips, creator of Magus Elgar, and your master of ceremonies for the day. And this is, I don't know if we have a drum roll, but the very first Magus Elgar live stream Q&A session.
Woo!
Yay!
We have had a lot of support and wonderful fans who love this audio drama. We thought this would be a great way to show you our gratitude, as well as allow you to learn a little bit more about what's going on behind the scenes. And to help me with this, we have with us today William Violenus and David Autovino, also otherwise known as Magus Elgar and Minister Trike.
Ooh.
Yeah, gross.
Gross.
That guy.
That guy. Jeez. I'm not sure if I want to be here anymore, guys. I think I might have to just exit stage left or right. Anyway. But
special thanks to Ruby Fink and Karl Fink of Streaming for the Soul, and of absolutely all the things that they've done to help us put this live stream up in the first place, as well as a fictional cafe. We couldn't have done this without you, Karl and Ruby, who's currently manning our comment feed for us, and also the other high-tech equipment that I know nothing about. Fans, if you've got any questions while this live stream is going, post it and we'll see if we can answer it. In the meantime,
questions.
We've got a couple of things in store for you. First, I'd like to extend an opportunity for William and David to talk a little bit about themselves. Why don't we start with you, Dave? David.
I love talking about myself. How funny.
I was just gonna say that.
Hey everyone, how you doing? I'm Dave Autovino. I play the role of Minister Trike. It was a ton of fun. It was really funny. I'm glad that people enjoy it. I don't know. Yeah. What else? What else do we want to say here, Kennedy?
I mean, a little bit about yourself, how you started up doing voice acting and such.
Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. So I am a classically trained stage actor. I've been working professionally on stage for 20 years. The last half of that, I've sort of been leaning more into on-screen work and voiceover. So that's fun. I'm also a dad, so voiceover lets me continue to act professionally and not even have to leave my house or put on pants. So
I do where like they come in, your kid comes in and starts making a great ton of noise while you're trying to
Well, it depends on whether or not I'm wearing pants, because they might be like, "Daddy, put on your pants."
What are you talking about?
I don't often parent pantsless. That's a good idea to parent with pants on. Yeah, no, that is a challenge. I have two kids, one older, one much younger, and the older one she's a good, quiet kid, and she likes this, and she's interested in this. She likes podcasting, and she thinks this is all really cool. And my younger one is the demon spawn of Satan, and the destroyer of worlds, and she would just rip everything apart if she could. So that's why she's unconscious right now.
She can hear what you're saying. I don't know if you know this, but she's gonna be descending from the ceiling any moment.
No. So that's me. That's me in a nutshell. Help! I'm in a nutshell. William, how about you, buddy? Who are you?
I'm still trying to figure that out. Just surfing from couch to car to van with curtains. No, so I'm from Canada. I'm not classically trained, really, in anything. But I kind of got into this business in my early 20s, and I started with voiceover, and I do a little bit of on-camera stuff as well. But yeah, I've been doing this.
Of course he does. He's so handsome. Look at him.
I know. I just had to turn the lights because I'm so bright. No, okay. But yeah, so like I've been doing this probably full time for about 5 or 6 years, and no kids. I'm really just living the single dude actor dream. And yeah, I really like voiceover. For me is probably my favorite. So most of my time goes into voiceover, and yeah. really just, yeah. I don't have an exciting story. I have a collection of dolls if you guys would like to see. No, I don't actually. No, I don't. But nothing super.
I mean, I don't care about dolls. I don't care either way. I mean, it's
I don't
fine.
care.
Whatever.
Need something. But yeah, no, that's kind of just my shtick. I've been doing it full time for about 6 or 7 years, full time. 10 years in total. But yeah, mainly a VO guy, and that's what I like. That's what I like. So yeah,
amazing. So
it's amazing.
Let's do a couple of announcements. First off, Magus Elgar is on iTunes, Audible, and Bandcamp. Finally, we've been working on posting the first 3 episodes on YouTube. I'm going to be doing the same on SoundCloud at some point, possibly today.
Yes.
But we also have a little bit of a surprise or two for you today, and that is, as part of our YouTube advertising campaign, we have a series called A Primer. It is a video series where I, as Magus Tentorn, narrate a couple of concepts that are unique to the show. We did one for The Birth of Magic, which we recently got a Telly Award for. We did one with The Elements, which was animated by Great Dictator on YouTube. Absolutely phenomenal animator. I highly recommend.
Did you say a dictator, or his name's Dictator?
Dictator.
Okay.
Mr. Tater to you.
Mr. Tater.
I recently just posted a YouTube video of like a Gmod source filmmaker series for Team Neighborhood, and it is phenomenal. He got some really good, compelling imitation actors for like the characters from Team Fortress 2.
Nice.
Just finished watching it. It's great. But anyway, so the first thing I want to show you is we have a new primer on our hands done by Jonathan Phillips Bradford of Eldritch Studios. He's currently making a board game called Wander. I just picked up I just supported it on Kickstarter myself. It should be coming out this season. I'm not sure yet. But for that, I would like to invite you to enjoy this primer, as it's going to be a premiere right now. Play me off, Karl.
Welcome to A Primer, a brief synopsis on magic and everything in between. With me, Magus Tentorn. The Elements.
Okay. So I think there's like a couple of seconds, but I'm not sure if you guys can see the primer.
It's supposed to be our live performance of them.
Now, no one is absolutely certain about why the Elements came to be. Many surmise it was a happy accident. The Elements are powerful representations of everything that is and is not. There's an element for fire and an element for planets. But there are even elements for abstract things, like the element of compassion or the element of villainous monologues. But if there's one constant among all of the elements, it is their massive insecurity. If you bloat their egos with praise and reverence, they'll get very full of themselves, and that overconfidence tends to make the universe very rigid and static. However, in the world of Hearth, the elements are constantly assaulted with witty banter, insults, and mockery, making them very self-conscious. Not only do they frequently blip in and out of existence, they tend to throw a tantrum at the offending party. Though you'll rarely find complaints about that at Hearth. There's nothing more amusing than watching cosmic energies rain down from the sky, only to be used to warm your tea. This is the world of Magus Elgar.
Magus Elgar is a fantasy comedy audio drama. Visit maguselgar.com to download your copy today.
Allow me to introduce.
Something's happening. That was a clearing throat of progress. Introducing.
So if people can still see us now, I guess shall we entertain them? I mean, should I take my
Dance
clothes
for
off?
us.
Sorry about
Yes. I mean, that's what I've been waiting for. I don't know about you guys.
We're actually back on.
And since he doesn't wear pants, he just needs to take off his shirt.
That's it.
That's
that
it.
was for the elements. I'm not sure if Karl can hear me. I sent you an email to another video because I sent you the wrong one, because this is the first time I'm doing a stream, because of course I'm going to make those kinds of mistakes. So I apologize, acolytes. Understand that to err is only human.
But you are a magus.
But to forgive, do not forgive me. So I'm going to ask if he can send up the next one. Give me a thumbs up, Karl, if you got that ready. But yeah, the aside from that, we could pull up a couple of questions to the two of you, if you'd like. I'm going to ask. Let's start off with William.
Alrighty.
William, how did you get roped into Magus Elgar?
Do you want to know what kind of rope literally was used to drag me into it? Or no, a noose, some wire, some copper wire. No, so voices.com is a site I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with, but you kind of have a slew of auditions and things to choose from. So that's how I found out and auditioned for Magus Elgar. And I think I auditioned for 3 characters, Udo, the narrator, and Magus Elgar. But yeah, that's kind of basically how I got into it, through voices.com, auditioned, and met with Kennedy, and kind of, yeah, got the ball rolling right there. Yeah.
Nice. What do you like best about voice acting?
For me, I'm not, I always kind of compare voiceover to theater, although I'm not a theater guy. I mean, if you're a theater guy, you might be able to attest to it. I just find the performing is more akin and a part of voiceover, whereas on camera is a lot of physicality, way you look, whereas voiceover, you can kind of be whoever you want, perform and be big, and your performance, speaks for yourself. So I enjoyed that aspect of voiceover the most. Is it's pure to me as an art form versus on camera stuff. Be very artsy there, but that's my true answer for that. Yeah.
Now, if I recall, when you auditioned to be Magus Elgar, you auditioned for quite a few characters.
I did.
If there was another character that you would want to play besides yours,
yeah,
who would it be and
why? You know what? I end up grew into like Udo's character. As I listened back, I just thought I liked his disposition. I liked kind of just like the laid back, like, oh god, nah, that just pulled back performance. So I kind of grew to fall in love with that character. So I think if I can get a chance to play something, I do Udo for sure. I enjoyed Udo's character.
Nice. Do you feel that Magus Elgar is similar in some way to your own personality?
I'm gonna say no and yes. There are definitely some aspects. Like, yeah, I remember in the audition, I think it referenced like Terry Pratchett books and Doctor Who, I think. But I kind of drew from a lot of like from aspects of those books from Terry Pratchett, like the very British humor and characters I got that way. But I think if I were to say anything in comparison to me, would maybe be his flightiness, how he's kind of like here and here and here. There's definitely parts sometimes in my day where I can be like tons of energy, and probably people think I'm off my medication. So I'll say that. I'll say that.
That is one thing about Elgar that I do appreciate, is that sometimes he's about the brave theatrics, and then sometimes depression is a better part of autumn. Goodbye.
Yeah, exactly. I do tend to be like that sometimes. So
yeah. Out of all of the scenes that we've had you record, which one was your favorite?
My favorite. And again, I'm gonna get super artsy, guys. I'm not gonna go. There was one scene. I'm not sure what episode it was in, where Magus Elgar was very different from how he is, where he was having a very serious and heartfelt discussion with Udo, and it was like a very. I don't know if you can remember the episode or where I'm talking, but it was a stark contrast from how he was throughout the entirety of the episodes. So I kind of just liked that you got the chance to see another side that he actually was somewhat normal maybe, and he could feel maybe what Udo might have been feeling. So I kind of like that. I like that that contrast from him being able to go from being crazy through the entire time, but also when you needed him to be there, he was kind of emotionally there, stable for a moment to help Udo out.
Mm-hmm. On the side, Karl, if at any point you can hear this, let me know if you've got that video up. Just give me a thumbs up. I got a question here. From the audience, from Adrian Hiroki Konovales. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right.
I know Adrian. I don't know Adrian. I really don't.
Fight Club question to Magus Elgar. If Elgar could fight anyone from history, who would it be and why?
Oh, God. Does he really want to fight anybody? That's the question. He just might say it. I don't know if anybody out of history. I don't know. I'm gonna say a fight between him and Elton John could be entertaining. Him and Elton just going at it.
I would say that it wouldn't be. I don't think it would be a traditional fight, but I imagine that Elgar would probably want to get into a fight with William Shakespeare, mistaking his theatrics and his mannerisms as a means of being a latent Magus himself, and being like, "I can outperform you."
the thespians in both of them. That would be better. That would be better for sure.
All right, cool. So we've got the actual trailer for the primer coming up. Play me off, Karl, and let's do it right this time.
Welcome to a primer, a brief synopsis on magic and everything in between. With me, Magus Serling Tenthorn. The casters. Magic is a great deal like comedy. It cannot function without a little bit of misery. Even a well-placed pun can make someone groan. That's why the first casters were called Sorcerers. All you have to do is possess enough ether, or magical potential, for the elements to notice you. Say something nasty, and voila, magic. The people who use this magic are simply known as casters. While the basics of magic are quite simple, there are numerous methods to channel magical energy. There are 3 types of casters: sorcerers, wizards, and magi. Sorcerers have great magical potential, yet they don't bother with understanding how magic works. They just go directly to the source. This tends to make them a little crazy. Wizards don't really have any magical potential at all, but with enough research and study, they come up with clever ways to get around that. And magi balance between having magical potential and study, making sure they know what they're doing. So, what kind of caster are you? Sorcerer, wizard, or magus? This is the world of Magus Elgar.
Magus Elgar is an audio drama available for download on iTunes, Audible, Bandcamp, and wherever audiobooks are sold. Visit MagusElgar.com to download your copy today.
So, we just showed everybody what it means to be a caster, being a sorcerer, a magus, or a wizard. David, William,
yes,
what kind of caster are you?
I'm a broadcaster. No, I don't know. I'm gonna let, since I answered so many questions, I'm gonna let David come in. He needs some shine. Go for it.
Can I, if there are can I specialize in a particular element? Like, I guess maybe it's lame to say. Can I specialize in fire? Is pyromancy like a class of caster?
Well, see, the thing is that it's not by the specific type of element you're going for. Casters in Magus Elgar have an element that they have an affinity to, but
like an alignment.
What defines them as a caster is the method of casting. So with sorcery, you are basically channeling all the energy into yourself and using your own life force, which makes it very potent, but it makes you go crazy.
Because you don't have a totem.
Yeah. With
yes.
the totem, that's for a magus, so they basically channel that energy into like a lightning rod and cast that way, whereas wizards use ingredients and other things to basically create a fake sorcerer temporarily to cast their spell.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for the reminder. Sorcery, pure evil. Let it course through my body. No totem.
Well, sorcery is
I'd like to bear back that magic if I could.
Oh,
good or evil.
better fill up that glass of water there, buddy. Gonna need another full glass if you can do stuff like that.
Yeah, sorcery isn't inherently good or evil. It's more of a means to an end.
I'd use it for evil.
No, well, if that's
I thought you guys understood that implicitly. I would absolutely use it for evil. Yeah, of course. Not even world domination, just petty things. Just embarrassing my enemies.
Trike.
That's just one way in which I'm very similar to Minister Trike, I guess.
William?
I don't know. I really don't know. That's a tough one. I mean, yeah. Sorcery, I mean, would be fun. I don't know. But yeah, I think I'd be more, I don't know if I'd do it just for purely being evil. I don't know. I'd definitely be methodical with it. I'd be one of those, Saruman type deals, just off in a tower somewhere. Can't grow a beard, but maybe through my evilness, I can finally just force a beard to grow. But yeah, definitely. Sorcery would be cool. It'd be fun.
Yeah, personally, I've always considered myself a magus in that regard. We actually have it on our cast and crew list. Like all the main crew actually say what kind of caster they are. I put myself as the magus, and in similarity to Magus Elgar, the element that I would find most affinity towards is the element of discovery, which is actually the logo of the show.
Yes, which I'm a big fan of that logo with the I like the scale pulled there too. It was great.
Yeah, it's we actually had Andrew Ponton design that, and he was absolutely phenomenal to work with because he designed all the elements and all the different symbols for the three of casters and the different symbols for each of the sorcerer, wizard, and magus. If you actually look at the Ministry of Caster logo, it actually is a combination of all three of them put together in perfect harmony. I'd like to throw the ballpark of discussion over towards David over here. David,
who's hiding behind the curtain behind you? Hello.
What was the first voice you ever learned to do, or you ever enjoyed doing?
Oh, I'm gonna say when I was a kid and I finally saw Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I'm sure for the rest of that, the next 2 or 3 years of my life, I was doing every voice from that movie. I'm sure I was doing someday, all of this will be yours. What the curtains? No, not the curtains, lad. And the knights will say, yeah, I did. I'm sure I was very obnoxious in junior high school, doing those voices over and over again.
I think everybody who got exposed to Monty Python and the Holy Grail for the first time had that moment in their life when that was their definition of comedy for a good period.
Yeah. That's whoever pops your comedy cherry, you tend to stick with. But especially because I think that's, if you're a young nerd and the first time you sort of hear British voices and you get that sort of Anglophile love sort of deep in you, we love to try and imitate the Brits. I think we love to strive. We rarely succeed well, but we love to try.
Well, if that was the case, what would be your dream role to play?
Okay. That I would love to be. I think I'd be bad at it, but I'd like to be a starship captain, I guess. Not that Star Trek needs any more white male captains, but I'm sort of short and stocky, and I've got a big barrel chest like William Shatner. So I've always kind of imagined I'd love to play a Shatnerian balls to the wall starship captain in the Star Trek universe.
I mean, you never know. They might animate another series again at some point. By everybody.
Fingers crossed.
You could also be one of those captains that's like, in the seat and is being attacked by something horrible and explodes. I actually the first
been training for this role my whole life.
I think I actually met the first Latino starship captain on a set when I was in college.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, he was cool. He was playing a pimp. That was awkward. Anyway, so where do you get your inspiration for some of the voices that you've had to come up with over the years?
Oh gosh, I steal it. I totally steal. I steal voices from other actors and from other characters. Okay, so what's his name? Hank Azaria is famous for, all the voices that he does on The Simpsons. He's famous for saying like Chief Wiggum is just a bad Edward G. Robinson impression. He says Hank Azaria says all of my voices are just bad impressions of someone else. So my Minister Trike is a bad impression of John Lithgow. That's where his voice comes from. And so a lot of my character voices, a lot of the voices that I use in voiceover work, they're my own bad impressions. And because they're not perfect impressions, you wouldn't confuse them with when I try to sound like John Hamm, you wouldn't confuse it with John Hamm's voice, or when I try to sound like Walter White, what's his name? Bryan Cranston. And I try to sound like Bryan Cranston. They're bad impressions. They're not perfect, but they're altered enough that they turn out to be unique voices. So I steal them from other people.
Very nice. So what do you like most about Minister Trike? I know that's going to be a hard question to answer.
No, what I love most about Minister, or what was most fun about playing Minister Trike is the fact is when he would strive so hard to, like, within the span of one paragraph, within the span of 3 sentences, he will put on the mask of propriety and decorum, and then undercut it all by saying exactly what's on his mind. Saying like the people. I serve the people. I'm a man of the people. They respect me. They love me. And I think that they're stupid idiots, but I serve them anyway. It's that twist at the end, the little reveal, like, oh, this is because he lets out what he's thinking. I love him. He's hilarious. He tries so hard, but he can't keep it in.
That was one thing that I always was tempted in my head when I'm writing him out. Is at the back of my head, I'm just thinking this one line that just continues to repeat, and it's, you will do what I say, or I will continue to make unpleasant noises in your direction. Ew. Because it's weird. Like I think like part of the inspiration for like the mannerisms for Trike that I had come with a long time ago was from the mayor from this probably long forgotten cartoon, Mike, Lou, and Og, where he spoke more in this region, like trying to do a really high-pitched Tim Curry.
Yeah, I'm shouting.
Everybody's just the entire time.
Okay, let's see here. Let's see. Who, out of all of the characters aside from yourself, who was your favorite Trike?
Oh, I love Gat. Where did we land?
You got a gat.
It was God.
Thank you.
Which I believe he's listening right now.
Oh, really? Oh, great. That's great.
Hello, God.
He's a wonderful character. I love the concept of the narrator too. It's because it's a really esoteric kind of thing to have the narrator be an actual, like, persistent person present in the universe. But he is also the character that my 7-year-old likes to imitate the most. She, like, every so often she will just try to in the world of Magus Elgar. How's my accent, Daddy? She's working on it.
She is an absolute delight, and we get enough children wanting to mimic the voices of Magus Elgar.
She's trying to tell everyone about it at school, but like,
of course, none of them are. They're going to be like, "What?
What's happening?"
Oh,
is that on?
What do you think was the hardest scene for you to do?
Oh.
I'm actually going to extend this one to both of you because we had some very challenging scenes in this show for a multitude of reasons.
Yeah. The most challenging thing for me, I think, is Trike has several moments where he's being injured or screams a lot or he's panicking or he's frightened, and so he's yelling, he's screaming, and so as an actor, I want to get into those moments, but like, because most of us are all recording remotely, I am also my own audio engineer. So while I'm acting, I also need to make sure, like, am I getting a clean recording? Am I peeking all over the place? Or do I need to like do several tests about like mic placement to make sure that I'm getting a clean recording here? And so it's having to do that yourself sort of takes a brain cell off of your performance as an actor. And that's an unfortunate reality of the way this work goes, but it's that was the biggest challenge for me. William, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I guess specifically for Magus Elgar was tough. He had a lot of long-winded, wordy statements that I flubbed. You'll remember, Kennedy, that I flubbed so many times, just trying to get these paragraphs of him like just one breathing, like all these crazy things. But that was, as fun as that was probably the toughest part for me to try and get that in an understandable state. So when people heard it, was like, is he joking? Should we? But yeah,
we had some lines a long time ago that you would read them, and in the raw recording, you'd be trying to say the line. You're like, why does he talk like this?
yeah, I know. I was like,
I think Ness accessories drove you nuts.
Yes, there was
necessary
a couple
accessories or necessary.
Yeah.
Because I had it typed out, and you're like, how do you pronounce that?
Yeah. Is this in the English tongue? Because I am only versed in one language. Kennedy, you know this. No, but that was tough. That was tough. I appreciate it. That was really funny. But yeah, sometimes it was tough to get those out.
Okay, well, I think it is time for us to share a little something extra. Where are we going right now? Because it's been a long time since we've actually shown anything too considerably new in terms of the world of Magus Elgar and all that stuff. But we have been busy, and I have something a little exciting to show all of you today.
Yes.
Karl, could you play us the other video for us?
Allow me to introduce myself. I am Magus Elgar, a caster, a spell master, and a solver of disaster.
And I'm Udo Malaki. I'm with him.
If it's not playing, this is where it gets awkward. It gets really awkward.
So yeah, that was.
Oh, we're back.
So that was an audition sample for an animated pilot for Magus Elgar. We are working with what we had affectionately called Team Ohio, which consists of Cole Jordan, Zach Paulus, and Shannon Allen, all of which were people from the absolutely exquisite Has Been Hotel team, which was animated by Vivian Medrano. If you haven't seen that on YouTube, I highly recommend you look into it. We're working on building a pitch Bible so that we can propose this to a bunch of different animation companies and the big ones like Disney and Cartoon Network and maybe Netflix or Hulu. We're hopeful to have something ready by February, but it's a very long process. We've got a lot of concept art to hammer out. We've got the style that we need to figure through. And of course, we need to record a delightful new trailer for them. But I know that probably some of you might be thinking, well, great, animated, but I'm kind of interested in what's happening right now with the story. Well, we are in the works of writing out a season 2. I've been collecting a writing team. We have our proofreader has been promoted to head of story, Sumi N. Woodside. Blessings to you. And we've got a couple of other performers. We've got a couple of other writers, which I will withhold for the time being, out of respect of privacy, at least until we have something properly written out. But we've been spending the last couple of months writing out ideas for races, for locations, for so on and so forth. We've already got our idea for the plot planned out for season 2, but we're doing that in tandem with writing the animation Bible and doing and writing scripts for season 2 and planning out where we're going to be going from there. If I was to say if we have an idea on where we're going to be going for the story on the whole, I kind of have ideas all the way up to season 4 if we ever did one.
Wow.
I've shared it with them, but I dare not tell the rest of you because spoilers.
Spoilers ahead.
But you'll have to stay tuned for the rest of that. In the meantime, we'll be posting some other goodies like trailers, or we'll be doing more of these Q&As if people happen to like it.
Yes.
So I'm noticing that there is a lot of questions in the comments, as well as we got a couple of emailed questions that we'd like to answer. So let's see here. From Cody Giard. I think it's Giard.
Giard. Pronounce everything phonetically.
Very short, Kellis. If Magus Elgar was in the real world, where would he live on Earth?
Where would he live on Earth?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I'm going to say New Zealand. I mean,
in a hobbit hole.
In a hobbit hole. No. Yeah, I don't know. He's so, oh, man. I'm going to say New Zealand or something totally different. I'm going to go right to New York City, downtown, just with the lights, because he's just fabulous. He's a fantastic guy. He needs to be seen. He needs to be seen and heard. So what better place?
I kind of imagine he'd probably live in like some isolated place in New Zealand or Switzerland or something like that with some high mountains. But he has a door that takes him directly into a city.
Yeah, just on weekends. He comes in, gets out.
He'd probably prefer that. Let's see what else we have. Ooh, that is a big one that I'm looking at right now.
Don't you say it, David. Don't you say it. Put that vase down.
What is your guys' creative process for figuring out moments in the plot between one big moment and the next? I think this one might be geared towards me.
I was going to say something else.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm just kidding, man. I'm teasing.
Well, now I've put the pressure on you.
No, I don't. I have nothing. You're gonna do it justice. Go for it.
Fine. All right. So for writing stuff for plot between one big moment and the next, I am what you would call a set piece writer. I enjoy writing ideas of scenes in my head. Usually, like, for example, in the scene in episode 3 with the portal, that was one of the first things that came up in my head, as well as the scene with Wizard Quaff doing his whole spiel about what the unblinking was and how it watches you pee, which is still one of my favorite lines in the whole series. In terms of figuring out plot between one big moment and the next, a lot of it really comes down to finding the set pieces that I like and threading in between them. Of, okay, I got this idea for a scene, how do I get here? Oh, I've got this idea for a scene, how do I get here? In fact, that actually was a moment of complication in the writing when I was first coming up with this. When I got through the whole first season of Magus Elgar in its first draft, I sat down, I looked at it, and I read it, all the little set pieces that I had, and I tried to do the through line. I said, I hate this. I hated every bit of it.
No.
Well, no, it felt hackneyed. It felt forced. So I contacted my producer and my co-director at the time, and I said, I want to get in a meeting and I want to sit down. I want to like really hammer out what I want to have fixed. which is in the original version, we didn't have Victus as an idea. I'm not going to say too much about it in case some of you haven't seen the rest of the series, but Victus, our main villain, who was a very big part of the story, wasn't in the original draft. And when I started thinking of the set pieces for those, I was able to go back and thread those together. There you have it. Another question here. Are all 4 seasons available for pre-order?
Yes.
If you'd like to put down some money now,
give a call. We take blank checks. Anything you've got. Credit card details.
Sell guy any donation helps. Please, we offer half the poor alms for the content creators. No, honestly, if we were going to do a pre-order for all 4 seasons, I would want them to be done, or at least have the scripts written out.
Yeah.
I had originally said when I first started working on this that I didn't want to do a Kickstarter. I didn't want to do a Patreon. I didn't want to do advertisements. I didn't want anybody else to put money on the table for something that I myself was unsure if I was able to do.
Right.
So I put down the money on it myself to get it out. Just because I had faith in it, but I didn't want anybody else to be like, well, sure, and then it just never happens, because you've seen so many Kickstarters and so many other projects where they're like, I want to do a thing. Bye.
He's in a boat in the middle of the ocean afterwards.
I just never have anything to go with it.
Yeah.
All right. Here's another question I'm seeing over here in one of the emails. What is your favorite Magus Elgar line, like in the series, not just specifically of a character?
Oh, jeez, that's tough. That's a tough one. I don't even know.
Watching you pee is pretty great. I like that's crowding my headspace right now, because that's a pretty great one.
It really is. I'm jealous of Kellen because Kellen Goff played Wizard Quaff, and he gets an opportunity to say some of my favorite lines in this just because the nature of Quaff is just so out there.
Oh, I've got another favorite of mine, and a big part of it is because of the way that the performances build to this line, and the way all the sound design builds to this line, and because of the way the whole plot of the episode is written just for this one pun. It all builds up to, it's one of your lines, Williams, because opossums attract. Because there's no hint that it's just going to be a stupid pun joke. And yet it's delivered with this crowning glory.
And crickets.
And
yeah.
Episode 4 was technically our pilot when we had to present it to the producers, and that line was the entire reason the episode existed in the first place.
Oh, possibly.
Talk about writing to a set piece.
Yeah.
Oh God. And when I finally read it out loud to a couple of my friends, everyone in the room just started throwing things at me.
But of course, I mean, but so that's episode 4, right, Kennedy? You said
that is episode 4.
Like it, by virtue of it being episode 4, by the time you get there, you know this world. You know by now that is the sort of linguistic joke that you should expect.
That is exactly what you expect of us.
Yeah.
That's what I actually like. I really love, because you really do get the progression in it, and everything's really like, you see what everybody's about pretty, not quickly, but like it grows, like you said, by episode 4, and you have a great idea of how the characters interact and what they're about. So I agree with that.
A line like that could be hackneyed. It could be cheap. It could be cheesy. But by that point, it's totally earned.
Yeah. No, for sure.
And I have a feeling we're gonna have a lot of those moments where if I continue writing the series, I'm not going to get that kind of forgiveness from time because we've already had lines. Oh God, I'm going to break a rule of ours for a brief moment about one of the new concepts we're coming up with. We're kind of coming up with races and stuff, and one of the races we came up with is called the Quanfloof. It is a canine that has a like really thick lion's mane type of hair, and their entire society revolves around how big and how fluffy that mane is, because as the tenant of their race is, the floof makes the woof.
Oh my god.
Yeah, baby. You know the flute makes the woof.
We ended up saying that, and one of the other writers in the room is like, "Oh,
the floof makes the woof."
Oh, I'm having a pun heart attack.
I'm gonna use that today in society and see how that works for me.
Oh,
just
the floof makes the woof.
What's up? So we'll let you guys know the floof definitely makes the woof. I probably won't be.
Where's everybody going?
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's answer another question we've got here. How did the origin of Magus Elgar start? Okay. Well,
this one's for Karl. Just kidding.
In college.
Just came up with it one day. Was outside and the wind blew and the idea came. Pretty much it.
Anyway, so the idea kind of started where in college, my undergrad in college, I went to University of Central Florida. I was going in for cinema studies in the hopes to actually become a film producer, like go into film production, and that never happened. So I had a lot of spare time on my hands. So what I would do is I'd get a laptop microphone and I would record myself doing a story, in a rudimentary form of an audio drama, where I would do everything in one take and I would add sound effects and stuff and so on and so forth and make a series out of it. I had a small following, but it was cheesy. It was cheesy. But it helped me develop my love for audio dramas in general. And later on, a friend of mine who was a fan of watching that series sent me a link to a little-known audio drama called Professor Nebulous. Professor Nebulous was a parody of Doctor Who written by Mark Gatiss and Graham Duff. He's waving at me for some reason. Do I need to? Is something wrong? Sorry, Karl was waving at me. What's up? Okay. Seeing this, and I was
we
like,
love you, Katie.
I lose my mic or something. Anyway, so Graham Duff and Mark Gatiss had written this, and ironically, one of the crewmen that was helping write and direct it was the voice and the performer of the Daleks for Doctor Who. So it was like a very lovingly crafted audio drama.
I mean, you shared that with me early on in this process. That's it, and the timing of the comedy is of the sound design. It's pitch perfect. It's a great. It's a great thing to listen to.
It is spectacular. Like I cannot deny that I had some inspiration from that, and like this series was so well done. They even managed to convince David Tennant to come in as a guest voice.
Oh wow!
He played an evil clown doctor at the end of the series.
It's crazy.
And like he was doing like his full-on Scottish voice, so evil Scottish clown doctor, which was great. But after I had spent a lot of time listening to that, I was getting my master's degree, and I had tried my hand at directing live action. It did not go well. I did not really have a good knack for the kind of style I wanted to do for directing live action stuff. Not to mention, they wanted me to do a drama, and because dramas are taken more seriously.
Yeah,
dignified.
It wasn't. For a little while, I didn't think I could direct. So what spawned Magus Elgar was, listening to Professor Nebulous over and over, listening to a couple of audiobooks, and saying to myself, I could do that. I have all the skill sets to do it. I could probably make it happen. So one day I called up my boss, Hamed Hokamzadeh of Melody Gun, and started rambling about this idea of we could make audio dramas. It'll be incredible. Thousands of people will watch. And he's like, yeah, sure, dude, whatever. I mean, just send me something. Jeez. And the rest was pun history, I guess.
Punstery, if you will.
Anyway, I've got a couple of questions from the emails, which some of them we've already said. How did you decide on the vocal characteristics of each voice actor and actress? Were they imagined beforehand or discovered as you went along? Parentheses. They fit perfectly for their roles. Kudos to all the voice acting. It's simply wonderful.
Thank you.
Felt like it was important to say that part. I don't know. Well, I've got my reasons, but why don't we ask the two of you, considering that you did these performances eventually?
No, that's a question for you. How close are our voices to what you had in your head when you were auditioning actors? Put the question that way.
Now be careful how you answer, Candy, because I remember you sent me an email. You told me what you thought. So if you don't answer correct, just let you know. I know. What you should...
Now you're just challenging me to memory.
No, is it like how much
knows me that does not exist with me?
Yeah.
Now, how much were you guided by what you imagined in your head versus as you're going through auditions where you're like, boy, I didn't think of the voice that way, but now that I hear this person do it, they're nailing it. That's it.
Yeah.
So when I come up with the ideas, I had to come up with I would look through. I went on YouTube and watched like hundreds of cartoons and other shows and things like that, try and get the quality of the voice down. The first thing that you typically do in these kinds of things that you think of an ideal celebrity voice actor that can pull off.
Yeah. You dreamcast it in your mind.
Yeah, and like
not Sega Dreamcast.
Yeah, that was a complete failure.
Initially, I always imagined Tim Curry playing Minister Trike on some level, if only because specifically his performance from Nigel Thornberry from the Wild Thornberries. A little more muted than that, but that was probably one of my favorite performances of his, because as soon as you hear "hello," you would immediately know who it is. If you've never seen the Wild Thornberries, Tim Curry plays the father in that, and every second he is on screen, he's incredible.
Yeah.
For those of you who've never watched it, he's the guy that is the smashing meme. But when I received all the voices for every character, all the character, like for all of them, I got over 800 auditions.
Wow.
800, like it was incredible. Because I mean, like like you guys auditioned for pretty much every role that I had.
Yeah.
And we had some really fierce competition, but the one thing that really impressed me was for William Violenus' performance.
I've heard of him.
Please tell me more. No, kidding.
The first audition that we had gotten on that huge list.
Yep.
I listened to it. I'm like, God, that was really spot on, but I need to listen to the rest of these.
Yeah. All 800.
Oh God. And I listened to all of them. They were all phenomenal. Like the voices.com has some phenomenal talent going in, and pretty much like a good 70 to 80% of our voice actors were from that. But with both of these characters, I remember that for Minister Trike, there was stiff competition. We had one guy that had come in from actually from Los Angeles, who was he brought his own mannerisms in a very unique way
in a suitcase.
I really liked. But the two complicated things about it was that he was a SAG actor, which I kind of wasn't a union thing. But the other part was that he was a lot older than I was hoping for him to be.
Okay.
But when I went for you, I gave you the direction that he went with for a lot of the mannerisms.
And you pulled it off.
And now I can't imagine these characters sounding like anything else. It's kind of weird. But what about you? What gave you guys the ideas for your respective voices for your characters?
You want to go first, Dave?
Like I said earlier, he's a John Lithgow impression. Specifically, he's an impression of John Lithgow on Third Rock from the Sun, who is a self-important character who vacillates between trying to sound dignified and yelling at the top of it and yelling uncontrollably. You know, it's that he barely able to contain himself. So that was my inspiration. And the writing guides you there. I think
100%.
what's most important for an actor is that you examine that writing and you follow that writing and you see where that leads you. Sometimes you have your own ideas about what you want a character to be, but if you try to if the writing doesn't fit that and you try to force it onto the writing, it's going to be a bad fit, and ultimately you're probably not going to get the part. So yeah, it was that I tried to fit your writing, Kennedy. I tried to find the voice that fit your words, and I'm glad I did.
Well, you should never be afraid to. I had gotten some voice acting academy lessons from Del Mar Media Arts. One of the things that they always said is that while it is good to go for the safe bet, never be afraid to try something unique to the table.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had something like that with a casting call Club. There was a audio drama where they were looking for like this vampire, and almost all the vampires that were auditioning were like,
I am this refined, deep voice, and I want you to enjoy it while being terrified of me.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that's fine, but I kind of imagine this guy being like really old and really strained, and the idea of life being painful to him. So I kind of went into this region.
Sorry. You literally went there, yeah.
It was exactly what he wanted in the end.
Yeah.
And that's good. It's not just that it's unique, it's that it's way more specific.
Yes.
That's an actor where there's specificity is that's a really specific choice, and that makes your character a more specific person. The thing that you said most people do, well, most people do because that's broad. That's just that is your basic bog standard vampire.
Yeah.
It's general. It's unspecific. But your second choice there, Kennedy, that's specificity. That's a character, not a caricature.
Yeah, true.
What about you, William?
Again, I think kind of to piggyback off what David was saying, you know, a lot of voices, I think a lot of voice actors, I mean, for the most part, you're imitating something. It's art imitating life. And a lot of the voices I do, whether it's based off of somebody specific or just a person that I've met, a lot of my voices tend to grow from that. I can't pinpoint exactly how I developed what, because I have like so many voices. I'm sure David does too. Just like you have so many voices in your head, so sometimes like this will be perfect, and you kind of morph it to the copy, right? Mm-hmm. So I had this idea in my head. I'm like, and it was very descriptive. The great thing about the breakdowns for these was you were very descriptive of what you wanted. The physicality also was kind of there, and it was just I could just see it, and then I kind of took that voice and tweaked it a bit based off of your writing and the physicality of what you were hoping Magus Elgar would be, and so he kind of just came through that way.
Yeah, the in terms of like writing out some of these characters and coming up with them, a rule of thumb that I usually tend to do for coming up with these ideas is all these characters that we wrote are fractures of one's own identity or idea borrowed from certain things. For example, in going to the main four characters for the cast, Horatio, Kaylee, Udo, and Elgar. Elgar is the theatrical, attention-seeking aspect of myself, expanding to an umpteenth degree. Udo is the reserved, more attempting to be responsible, but also very timid kind of aspect of my own self. It helps to, when you create your characters, you can take segments, little slices of your identity, pull them out and stretch them out and play around with them and see what you can come up with. In a sense, pretty much all writers end up doing that in some way or another.
Yeah.
Even if it's just your own self-insert hero character that everyone loves.
Yeah.
Saying here, how does one audition for your show? Cody.
Well, you have to find him in the streets, folks. You have to find this man.
Well, I actually started with voices.com. They had a producer come. They actually introduced a producer to me to being like, I'm going to wrangle all these voices for you because this is probably one of the biggest undertakings we've had. Because usually they're used to like doing like one narration or one voiceover for like a documentary or something like that. But they're like, okay, you're doing like a whole cast. This is a little involved. But we did that. We did LA casting. We did. I'm actually considering using castingcall.club in the future because there were a lot of phenomenal performances in that. What I'll typically do is I'll have a document listing out all of the things about the characters, maybe a couple of images of what I think they might look like, what I think they might sound like, description of their history, their personality, because knowing the history of a character really helps bring out the performance in them. Talking to, like, for example, with Minister Trike, I had expressed that, well, he's this very petty person and that it's likely that his job was just given to him to keep him out of the way or something like that. But he's got this self-importance swimming about in his head. Because to quote a line from this old movie, Mirror Mask, I am a very important man, you know. I have a tower. Let's see here. What else do we have? Where did the idea for the interactive narrator come from? Love the fourth wall breaks and the banter with the characters in the story. It's a very refreshing take on the common narrator position. The best part was the secret location reveal at the end of the season. Spoilers, but we won't expose that too much because
gotta listen.
We're interested in seeing the rest of it. So, interactive narrator. I love screwing with the status quo. I love the idea of those kind of moments. The interactive narrator started, oddly enough, in second grade. Just bear with me on this. My elementary school, Virginia Schumann Young, was a Montessori school, and they wanted us to do a performance on a Greek myth of our choosing in second grade. They had this thing where like you can choose like the level of difficulty for your class. Not only did I decide to do it on the Iliad, I volunteered to write it. Wow. And partway through the story, the narrator gets stabbed and dies, and one of the soldiers has to take his place.
You said this was second grade?
This was second grade. Wow. It was played, the Iliad, we wrote the Iliad, but it was like played up for laughs.
Right.
And I don't have the script anymore because like I wrote it on a Windows 95 for God's sakes.
Oh, you didn't save that?
I have all my Windows 95 computers. XP.
No, that thing's got saltwater damage now, man. But the other thing that I really enjoyed that helped spawn this kind of inspiration, have any of you guys ever played Metal Gear Solid 2?
No, not 2.
I played Metal, some. I was definitely probably not 2 though.
So it was a stealth action game. My first one actually of that series, and I've grown to absolutely adore it.
But you started with 2?
Yeah,
that's a weird place to start.
Well, it was on the PlayStation 2. I didn't have a PlayStation 1. I didn't even know the first one existed.
Oh wow! Okay.
So you know,
so it was totally normal that you're playing as Raiden for most of the game.
Yeah, it didn't bother me at all. But the bit that really got to me, spoiler for a 10-year-old game, is a part where where Raiden, the main character, gets captured, and they take off all of his clothes, and he's running around in this weird laboratory. And he gets a message from a superior officer, and he says, "Colonel, this is really terrifying. This is confusing. What do I do? How do I get out of here? I don't have any of my gear." And the commanding officer says, "You need to turn the game off right now." I was so terrified and confused because I'd never had a game directly talk to me. And he started spouting all of this nonsense and all of this insanity, and I was terrified. I was crying. I was confused.
That's awesome.
I thought the game was haunted. I turned it off and I started over from scratch. But
no.
But that moment,
Kojima got you.
That moment of that visceral moment of, oh, they're talking to me, or oh, this is something in relation to me, hit me so hard. I said to myself, man, why don't more people try to do stuff like this?
Yeah.
Like there was actually one episode of Cartoon Network on Cartoon Network called Chowder. Just on record, I hate this show. Like, it drives me crazy. But there was one episode that they did that I really enjoyed. And it was an episode where the main character realizes, wow, our show appeals to the lowest common denominator. We're going to pull out everything about this show and examine this show critically and figure out how we can make it more refined. And the main character jumps out of the setting and has like a talk show with the other characters about the meaning of their character and what it means to be in the show and so on and so forth. And I'm like, this is really meta for a kids show. And I loved every second of it.
Yeah.
But the idea for the interactive narrator, I like the idea of this character having a lot more to him, but also being a presence that we can poke fun at and so on and so forth. Because if you realize the narrator, while he knows what's going on and so on and so forth, it's difficult for him to keep track of where the characters are going to go at any given point.
Yeah.
Considering the fact in episode 2, he didn't know what happened to Elgar and Udo when they disappeared into the cauldron.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't. Let's see here. Will we get to learn more about the dark history of the Malaki family before the Blood Pact of Purity?
Oh my. Very specific.
I have plans. I'm not going to say what, but I do have ideas on where I'm going to go with it.
So yes.
I want to try and avoid making this the Udo Hour Jamboree. We have other more interesting with just as many interesting things going on. If and when we do season 2, I'd like to tap a little bit more into other characters. I mean, yeah, Udo is going to have his own growth, and we're going to learn more about his own family. But I feel like in the grand scheme of the story, a lot of this is about the exploration of what magic is to Elgar, to Udo, to Kaylee, and to Horatio. Delving into family skeletons, while fun, might not serve that purpose nearly as well. So if I was to tackle it, I would probably either do it in a later season, or I would poke little clues about it as the story goes along.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. All right, this is similar to your favorite line, but what is each person's favorite part in the story?
Yeah.
What is everyone's favorite scene or favorite instance?
I think I think you asked me this one in the beginning questions, like my favorite scene, where I gave the contrast of how him and Udo had that very intimate, loving, not intimate loving that way, but like, heartfelt scene. But to give you something different, I do enjoy, where Magus gets theatrical and he'll start to sing a line, where he like comes out and he's like, "Dragon bone plate." Like he goes, I like stuff like that. But yeah, like I still do hold the scene, specifically the one with him and Udo, where's the contrast of personality. You get to see another side of Magus Elgar. But otherwise, I do enjoy the when he gets just super excited and starts to break out in a little song just to finish what he's saying.
Yeah.
I forget which episode. I think it might be episode 5 where they're at the marketplace and they're chasing the mercury monster.
Ferrofluid. That was episode 6.
The ferrofluid, episode 6. Yeah, that just part of what I like about that is that all the characters are sort of together interacting in the broader world. They're not just sort of like at home in the tower doing stuff. They're responding to external things. There's just lots of random people around them. We're sort of seeing them just this is it's not a natural thing that occurs to them, but there's something about that particular episode that has a real sense of place for me. Like I feel like I can I can visualize that whole episode in my head really well. That one's always kind of been my favorite.
Yeah, was a really fun scene. One thing I really liked about that episode in particular was it showed that even though Elgar and Quaff speak with like such immense wisdom about everything that's going on in magic, when you finally see them in action, they're like the equivalent of boys with sticks.
Yeah.
Plan this out. Let's be very careful. Let's go and do it and hit with a rock. As for me, my favorite scene, and while I do love the set pieces of the final episode and a couple of other things, my favorite scene actually has to do with my sound design work. And that was episode 8, where we had the Sazostrum duel. This was the duel with Christopher Moore playing Udo Malaki and Kalinda Gray playing as Acolyte Pythagatha. Doing a duel. And we actually get to show combat in an audio drama. And doing that kind of activity in an audio drama is really challenging. Because you can't just have them describing everything as it's happening. It kind of breaks up the action a little bit. So we had to find a way to juxtapose describing the action while you hear the action, you're in the moment. And it has some of the coolest sound design I got to come up with for the show. Barring the lightning fire that Dragon Inkadali uses in the first episode. That was actually all the sound design in the series, like a good 80-90% of it is Foleyed or created with some of my own equipment. Like I've got a synthesizer, I've got a theremin, I've got all sorts of equipment for this kind of thing like this. I'm a Foley artist, so I collect a lot of these props and I use a lot of these weird sounds for that kind of thing. Let's see.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that you were Foleying a lot of this stuff yourself. I guess I assumed you're pulling from sound libraries here and there. And
I mean, we do that sometimes for like some of the animal sounds, but what I would do is that I would take the animal sounds and
he'd go catch the animals himself, get him.
I would never record. I would never just leave the animal sound just as it is. I would splice it. I would
right.
Do something to it.
I would extrapolate on the tonal qualities of it and then piece together something entirely new. This makes putting down a sound effect go from being like a quick 15-second thing to being like a half-hour ordeal. Because you got to think about like how it benefits the story and what it does to tell what you're telling about these characters. Like the ferrofluid, like it's got this very oily kind of voice to it. And you hear it like slurping and moving around and stuff, but it's a very active creature. So when it's making its different shapes and stuff, you hear it moving all the time.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I think that's all of our questions right now. And I think we are slowly running out of time at this point because we're a little over the hour mark.
Well, shoot. Well, you made us answer a bunch of questions about like ourselves, and you talked a little bit about.
You did answer some, but I feel like that. Yeah, go.
Can we ask you some questions?
You know what? All right.
Some very personal questions.
You want to get super personal? Okay.
Oh, we want to know. We want to peel back the layers of you, Kennedy. We want to see what you're about. I mean, I want to know who I'm working with. I want to know the guy I'm working with. I know you're and everything, but like, look, you're all the way in LA. I've never been there. See you. We got to know what you're about.
All right. Well, you got any questions, or do they have questions, or what?
Well, I mean, let's just start off. Let's just do the most obvious question. Who do you like more, me or Dave? I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Don't answer that. Please don't answer that. Don't answer that.
I'd have to be a parent.
It just has to be a parent.
What you understand, I like.
I like you all.
Down, there is one of you that is my favorite, but I won't tell who.
I will not say.
Okay, William, why don't you and I take turns on a couple of these?
Okay, go.
I'll just start off with boxers or briefs.
Oh my God.
Boxers, man.
Yeah, right.
There was one thing that I prefer about my undergarments is the liberating sensation of not wearing pants.
Oh my god, so many like pantsless
Quick
things
of
here.
an answer, like I felt like that might have been too quick to know right away.
I mean, it directs me of the type of person you are, you know. Let's think. I guess you said like inspiration wise, you got inspiration from high, you know, with school and listening to audio dramas. But outside of audio dramas or like a Doctor Who type stuff, what's your favorite? Let's just say animated series. I mean, let's just do current. What's your favorite animated series right now that like gives you inspiration?
Gravity Falls.
That's a good choice.
Gravity Falls is, as described, Twin Peaks for children.
It's true.
It is an absolutely brilliant show that's not afraid to. They're definitely from the same boat as Don Bluth. If you're not familiar with Don Bluth, he was the not Disney guy that made Secret of Nim, All Dogs Go to Heaven, all that stuff. He had this belief that you could scare a child as long as you have a good point or a story in the long run that might have a happy ending. And in Gravity Falls, there are scenes that even like chilled me in terms of concepts.
Yeah.
Like they have this episode with like this shapeshifter that I don't know how they greenlit or why Disney said, yeah, this is great. But it turned into John Carpenter's The Thing, and I loved every second of it.
Yeah.
But it was also that it was a story that was not afraid to end.
Mm-hmm.
So many of these cartoons and shows and so on and so forth, they go on forever.
Yeah.
A great example of this is The Simpsons, South Park.
Yeah.
They're great shows, but they there's only so much you can.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can say with these characters. Eventually, the character's story has to end.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I loved about Gravity Falls is that it ended and it ended strong.
Yeah.
I had some of my own minor grievances about the ending, like I wouldn't have written it in a certain way or whatever, but it was good.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of respect for Alex Hirsch for being able to pull that off in this day and age. Another one that I do like is Gumball, mostly because it explores on the different types of animation.
Yeah.
They combine like hundreds of types of animation and bring it together in like one.
Right, right.
Really cool to see.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that was an acceptable answer. I'll give you a pass. We'll let Dave ask one more.
All right, let me ask you this. What writing do you hate? What writing have you heard that just makes you go like, oh, that's just terrible? What writing makes you cringe? And what do you wish you could fix?
In terms of my writing or in terms of in general?
I was thinking in terms of in general, like I was thinking in terms of other people's writing or like works of pop culture or whatever. Like, what have you seen any writing that's like, oh, that could be so good, and I could totally doctor that up and make it. It drives me nuts that it's not good. Or if it's easier to talk about your own writing in that sense. But what drives you nuts as a writer when you hear writers do blank? It pisses you off.
It takes a little bit of thinking.
Oh no!
I can start off with one, and I'm not entirely excited about talking about it. You have to understand, whenever this one thing comes up, I get irrationally angry about it. Like the more that I talk about it, the angrier I get that this exists. Disney Pixar's Cars. There's a rule that Pixar holds to, and that is that children can be treated with respect. They are smart, and they work very hard to establish that in their worlds, they make sense. The worlds make sense. They have rules. Toy Story has rules. WALL-E has rules. Even Pixar, even A Bug's Life and all those, they have a set of rules that make sense. But the moment you put any kind of scrutiny under cars, it falls apart.
First of all, the eyes are on the windshields. Everyone knows cars' eyes are headlights. I mean, come on.
So like so in the moment when they're going to the gas station to fill up, is the gas that's being filled up fossilized cars from the dinosaur ages? And if that's the case, are the dinosaurs also cars? And how do they turn into fossil fuels? If they have trucks that help travel cars across country, is that the equivalent of like a taxi service, or is that a bizarre form of intercourse? When the two cars that talk to Lightning McQueen come up and talk to him, lock their doors, are they afraid that he's going to rip open their doors and climb inside him?
Yeah.
If some of the cars are sentient, why are there cow cars that are tractors that aren't sentient? And how are there flies that are also cars? Is there a civil rights issue that goes on with this stuff? I digress.
Oh, the terrible internal logic of cars.
Yeah.
Every time I think about it, it continues to break down. It doesn't help the fact that the story is a hackneyed version of Doc Hollywood, which is like a Michael J. Fox movie from God knows how long ago. It's literally the same.
Kenny, I want to let you rant for a minute, but my wife needs me to ask my daughter a question. So I'm going to leave you guys for like 30 seconds. I'll be right back.
Go right ahead. But a rule that I've tried to come up with is that if I have anything critical to say about anything, I need to contemplate it in a constructive manner. So if I was to do a better version of Cars, I'd probably do a movie less about, a race car learning how not to be a terrible person. And I'd probably be more along the lines of, I'd probably do a story about a car that was beloved for a time or something, and then starting to get really old, and then the owner has to part ways with them.
Yeah.
Coming to terms with the fact of what life would be like as a used car.
Yeah.
When I had to part ways with my Ford Mustang, which was my first car, I had that car for about 10, 15 years. I got bizarrely emotional because I'm a sentimental sap. And I didn't want to lose I didn't want to lose it because it had a very big part of my history in there.
Yeah, memories tied to it.
Yeah, coming to parts with it was tough.
Yeah.
It'd be actually kind of a nice story to tackle.
Right.
And that would be a very Pixar kind of story. What is it?
Old school Pixar, for sure. Yeah. This is true. All right.
But,
did you want one more question? Are we out? Are we out of time? Or as Canadians say, are we out of time or what, eh? What are we out of?
But in terms of my own writing, I think my biggest problem was that for the first couple of episodes, I have this problem where I have a very hard time explaining myself. And when I speak, my aphorisms can be very scrambled. Some people would need me to repeat it 3 or 4 times to explain something, even though it seems clear as day to me, which is part of the reason where Magus Elgar comes from. And that's just because I know that I think very differently than some other people. It's just the way things are. So in the first couple of episodes, I spent a lot of time explaining things and explaining, and I had to do it like 3 or 4 times. And I can imagine somebody being like, yeah, I get it. But that's kind of the nature of fantasy, is that you got to find a way to explain these weird concepts to to the audience without it feeling forced or awkward.
Yeah.
Because what I really love is the moment in fantasy where you don't need to be explained, and something happens and you go, oh, that's what's going on. Kind of like in the later books of Harry Potter, or in the later scenes of Avatar: The Last Airbender, where something happens and you're like, I understand completely what's going on.
Yeah.
Let's do 2 more questions. We got
2 more.
Yeah.
Got 5 minutes
Right.
left. Okay. See something. Let's just see if we can do one. All right. Sci-fi or fantasy? If you had to pick one for the rest of your life, Kennedy, and you can only, and let's just make it even more specific. You could only create in one of these genres for the rest of your writing career. What do you pick? And with fantasy or to be sci-fi?
You're making me be a parent now.
Deep breaths. Luckily, we're all sitting down for this. Nobody's gonna collapse.
This is a very hard question because on one hand, sci-fi is absolutely fun. It's an absolute delight. Though when it comes to sci-fi, you kind of get locked into expectations of what they want the sci-fi to be about.
Mm-hmm.
They want something with technology, or they want something with space, or they want something with aliens.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But with fantasy, I imagine most people would think of fantasy as ye old tavern, Dungeons and Dragons type adventuring.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't consider it as that.
Mm-hmm.
I would actually consider, like, you could add fantastical elements to tons of things. A great example of this is a book series that I read called The Night Side by Simon R. Green.
Mm-hmm.
It's a book series about a private detective who goes to a alternate dark version of London. And it's very clearly dark fantasy in the idea that a lot of really horrific things are happening in this place and all that stuff, but it is a fantastical world. Like there's a place called the Hawkswind Bar and Grill, which is a ghost of a bar from the 1970s. Stuff like that. Like I feel like that I would have a lot more freedom if I retained myself to fantasy, but not bind myself to the feudal medieval age.
Medieval time type things. Yeah. I like
Considering that everybody has like 3 big ideas. I've got Magus Elgar is one of them. The Seven Flags Sprint is another, which is it's an airship setting that I actually created in an RPG with a couple of people. And the Quizzical Capstones of Octane Frobichobi, which is probably my biggest, most ambitious idea for a project, which I've been developing for over like 6 to 7 years. And that's actually a Lovecraftian horror type of thing, but I would still fall under the lines of fantasy.
Fantasy. Gotcha.
I'd love to share more about those kinds of stories, but we're talking about Magus Elgar right now.
Yes. Yes.
You got time for one more question?
Time for one more question.
Okay, I got one more for you. William, you made me think of this, and Kennedy, when you brought up Metal Gear Solid, made me wonder this. Okay, when Magus Elgar is made into a video game, what genre video game is it going to be? I'm going to give you 2 suggestions, either JRPG or one-on-one fighting game. What do you think?
I would say neither to those.
Oh, all right.
Raw.
Now, there are a couple of ways that I probably want to go about it.
Pixel art retro action platformer, obviously. That's jumping
first person shooter.
There's a lot of games that I've taken a lot of inspiration from. Like one of my favorite 2D platformers was the Klonoa series. I loved BioWare games. Probably one of my favorite ones from them. I know like Mass Effect is definitely on my top list, but I consider that a different echelon. Jade Empire was a lot of fun.
Yo, Jade Empire, I was gonna say.
Playing
good choice.
Kung Fu fighter game.
Yep.
That was fun.
That was a great game.
So Western RPG.
Western
was where we're leaning.
I want to do an off-take of a Western RPG where either you play as your own character or you play as a character unique to the game.
Yeah.
And I would love for it to have its own form of branching storyline and that your decisions help affect what goes on. I'd like it to be some kind, you know what, actually, I was to describe it. I would like I would like it to have a lot of the features of the Western RPGs, where like you're going around in a bit of a slight open world, but it'd be like contained open world, like you go to different locations. But you take the aspects of the Persona series. It's kind of like a little bit of a dating sim thrown in. You get to meet the characters and get to know them, and your understanding and relationship with them helps develop your understanding of the elements.
Yeah. Interesting.
All right.
I mean, yeah, there'd be combat and stuff, but I imagine that a lot of it would be more towards
the dating scene.
Solving
Okay.
or the day-to-day instances or something like that.
Yeah.
I could see it, I could see a point-and-click adventure game being something fun for it too.
Yeah.
Magus meetups.
Less the Walking Dead Telltale adventure game and more like
classic LucasArts style.
Yeah.
Max or Monkey Island, because I love me some Monkey Island.
Wasn't Grim Fandango by those guys or friends?
Yes. Well, Grim Fandango, it was done by Double Fine, but it was also done by LucasArts.
Yeah.
I'm actually going through the remake of that right now with a friend of mine.
Yeah, but I've heard good things. Heard pretty good things with the remake.
Like, I know I'd be really tempted to do something along the lines of like the kind of meta discussion that Undertale has, because that really like just questions the nature of gaming, and that's something I would love to do if I was ever given the opportunity, because that's in a way what I'm planning on working towards. A lot of applications and just like observing what it means to be in this.
Yeah, exactly.
As pretentious as an answer that is. In any case, I believe that is all the time we have today. It's been an hour and a half and so, but I really want to thank you all for coming with us today, and
thank you guys.
Skimping out on your responsibilities for voting. By the way, you should probably do that if you haven't done so already. We would literally not be here without your support and your encouragement. And I look forward to sharing more Magus Elgar content with you in the future. If I have anything to say about Season 2, I will make it a point to do so. But hang in there a little longer, and please tell your friends, tell your family, we made a thing, and we very much want to share it with the rest of you. So hang on a little bit longer, guys. I promise it'll be worth it. And thanks again. I want to thank you all for coming today. I want to thank Karl for manning this thing and making sure that it is as glitch-free as my person is physically capable of providing. I want to thank William Violenus over in Canada, and I want to thank David Autovino and his family for allowing him to come here and speak about his show. I really want to thank all of you for coming too, and I hope the rest of your day is a much more magical one.
Yes.
Can you say your very best, Magus Elgar?
Magus Elgar.
Yes.
Awesome. That's my girl.
Anyway, I'm Kennedy Phillips, your face on your screen, and we will see you again next time. Thank you for watching.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Later, guys.